This wasn't just a fall from power. It was a war, fought in the shadows, in palaces, and across mosques. One man, once loyal to the empire, turned on it. The Ottoman Empire didn't fall from the outside, collapsed from within. The rise of a rebel from within. Mustafa Kemal was not an outsider. He was born in 1881 in the Ottoman city of Salonika, a place bustling with diversity, but also soaked in tension. His mother was religious, but he gravitated towards science and reason. His environment planted the seeds of rebellion early: disillusionment with Ottoman decay, anger at foreign influence, deep skepticism of religious conservatism. Educated in military academies in Istanbul, Kemal was molded by both the Ottoman army and European intellectual thought. He admired Napoleon and the French Revolution, read Enlightenment philosophers, and believed that progress came not through faith, but through reason and modernization. He rose quickly as a decorated officer during the Balkan Wars and World War I, notably earning glory at Gallipoli. But behind the medals and respect, Kemal saw an empire rotting from within. Corrupt leadership, a bloated theocracy, and a blind loyalty to tradition. He began to see the Sultan not as a spiritual figure, but as a symbol of decline. The idea that the empire could be saved through reform died in him. Something more radical was needed, and that seed of thought would eventually explode into war, not with a foreign enemy, but against the empire that raised him. A nation divided, the war within begins. World War I was catastrophic for the Ottoman Empire. The once proud Caliphate, already weakened, lost territory to European powers and suffered humiliating defeats. In 1918, the Armistice of Mudros was signed. British, French, Greek, and Italian forces occupied parts of Ottoman land, including Istanbul itself. The empire was dying, and instead of resisting, the Sultan and his government cooperated with the occupiers. For Mustafa Kemal, this was treason. While the Sultan bowed to the Allies, he saw an opportunity to ignite a revolution from the heart of Anatolia. In 1919, Kemal landed in Samsun, defying orders from the imperial government, and began rallying nationalist support. He formed the Grand National Assembly in Ankara, effectively establishing a rival government. And thus the war within began. A battle not against foreign invaders alone, but against the Caliphate, the Ottoman Sultanate, and the Islamic institutions that propped them up. The country was split in two. In Istanbul, the Sultan, the clergy, and those loyal to Islamic governance. In Ankara, Kemal's secular nationalists, demanding a republic free from imperial and religious rule. It wasn't just political. It was deeply ideological and spiritual. Mosques became battlegrounds for loyalty. Clerics condemned Ataturk as a heretic. Royalists called him a traitor. Fatwas were issued against him, some calling for his death. In return, Kemal labeled the Sultan a puppet of the West and declared the religious establishment complicit in national ruin. This civil war, spiritual, ideological, and political, would determine the fate of the Muslim world. Why Ataturk declared war on the Caliphate. To understand the war within, you must understand Ataturk's worldview. To him, Islam was not just a religion. It was a political structure that had failed the Turkish people. He saw the Caliphate not as divine guidance, but as a backward institution that had kept Turks ignorant, passive, and enslaved to outdated customs. He believed that the Ottoman system of governance was too religious, too outdated, and too foreign influenced to survive in the modern age. He believed Islam had been manipulated to serve the ruling class, preventing reform, innovation, and national pride. He believed Western powers had modernized through secularization, and that Turkey must do the same. Ataturk didn't hate Islam as a faith, but he deeply mistrusted organized religion as political authority. This is why he targeted the ulema, the religious scholars who supported the caliph and opposed reforms. He dismantled the dervish orders, which spread Sufi teachings that conflicted with secular ideals, and he shut down the madrasa, the traditional Islamic schools, which he saw as breeding grounds for superstition and stagnation. Ataturk believed Turkey could not rise until it severed itself from the religious political fusion that had defined the Ottoman state. This wasn't just reform, it was a cultural purge, an ideological cleansing. The empire falls, reforms that redefined a nation, having defeated both the Allies and the Ottoman loyalists by 1923. Ataturk moved swiftly to remake Turkey in his image. The Sultanate was officially abolished in 1922. Mehmed VI was exiled. The last sultan of the Ottoman Empire left Istanbul on a British warship in 1923. The Republic of Turkey was declared, with Ankara as its capital. Ataturk became its first president. 1 year later, in 1924, Ataturk abolished the Caliphate, ending over 1,300 years of Islamic political leadership. Abdulmajid II, the last caliph, was sent into exile. Islamic institutions were dismantled. This shocked the Muslim world. From India to Egypt, Muslim scholars and communities mourned the loss of the Caliphate. It was more than a Turkish matter. It was the end of a global symbol of Islamic unity. But Ataturk's revolution did not stop there. His war continued. Against the traditions and religious fabric of Turkish society, Islamic law was replaced with Western secular codes. The holy day of Friday was changed to Sunday. The Adhan, the call to prayer, was temporarily required to be recited in Turkish instead of Arabic. Religious clothing was banned from public life. Fez, a symbol of Ottoman identity, was outlawed. Western suits were promoted. Religious schools were closed. Secular education systems were introduced. He abolished the Arabic script and replaced it with Latin letters, cutting future generations off from their Ottoman and Islamic written heritage. These reforms weren't slow or optional. They were fast, forceful, and met with silent resistance in many parts of the country. In effect, Ataturk won the war within. It's not just politically, but culturally. He severed Turkey's connection to its Islamic past. A nation transformed and divided forever by the late 1930s. Ataturk was no longer the fierce general of Gallipoli or the revolutionary in Ankara. His health had deteriorated due to liver disease, largely from heavy alcohol consumption. He died on November 10, 1938, at the age of 57. But his legacy did not die with him. He left behind a radically transformed nation, a secular republic where the state controlled religion, a Turkish identity severed from its Ottoman Islamic roots, a society that admired Europe, feared its own past. Yet not all Turks accepted this vision. In rural areas, people clung to tradition. Many resented the forced erasure of Islamic life. Over the decades, political movements, especially under leaders like Erdogan, have worked to revive elements of Ottoman Islamic identity. The war within never truly ended. It simply changed form, from bullets to ballots, from revolution to ideology. Today, Turkey stands as a nation torn between two souls. One born of Islamic empire and caliphate. One born of secular revolution and Western ambition. Who won the war within? Mustafa Kemal Atatürk didn't just defeat an empire, he redefined an entire civilization from within. He fought not just armies, but identities, traditions, and beliefs. He saw the Ottoman Empire not as a legacy to preserve, but a disease to cure. Some hail him as the father of modern Turkey. Others see him as the man who killed its soul. But one thing is certain. The war within the Ottoman Empire was not just a battle for power. It was a battle for what it meant to be Turkish, to be Muslim, and to be modern. And that war still being fought today.